think about leveraging the AI to do something that replaces and makes, you're adding so much convenience, and more than that, you're saving so much time of the people who are doing this tedious, laborious task that is really a drain on the skill of that person. Like that skill is not being used.
Nobody wants to do that.
No, but
everybody has to.
Everybody has.
We
have to do that.
If you want the same result, you have to do it. If you do not want all the extra ums and ands and pauses, if you want clean video and audio, you want to take that out. I mean, that's what editing is.
You know, and I actually just made a 1-minute video yesterday of my feedback to a remote editor, right? He's a remote editor that we recently hired, and I am giving him the instruction on how to continue doing what I've done. And part of that, I realized this process has made it clear to me, but you know, this is a language. This is a communication tool. And so it's going to take some time, and which I was ready for. I wasn't like, hey, week 1, ready, off to the races. I knew there's going to be this adjustment time and this kind of like collaborating cohesiveness time.
For them to see what you see.
Which we're in the middle of. And you know what? Every week it's highlighting something new. And this week, the video I made was explaining this process. This was before I saw that video about this script.
Nice.
And I was like, this is so timely. So I literally took a 12-second section, and then I iterated it the way I would normally do it. So it went from 12 seconds to 7 seconds to 6 seconds. And I was like, that's almost, it wasn't 12, it was like 11 seconds and 8 frames or something. But the final one that I was like, this is what I would consider done. That third iteration of it was 6 seconds and something frames. So let's just say half. That amount of time makes a huge difference on average view duration, engagement, pacing, right? I said, let's focus on pacing. Look at the difference here. This is what you delivered. This is how I would have done it. And these are the steps I used to get there. And along the way, part of that involves cutting out the fluff, cutting out the dead space, cutting out the ums. He actually, I wish I could think of the exact thing he said. Because when people talk like it's unscripted like this, there's a lot of fluff that we're unconscious about, because the actual point is oftentimes front and back end of the point could be omitted and the point would still hit the same way. And so I felt like I was almost leaning into now I'm an English teacher again, right? Like, what do I cut? He's talking the whole time, but you cut it here and there. And I was like, well, listen to the 6-second version, listen to the 12-second version, and tell me if the meaning that he's communicating is still coming through.
Right.
The answer is yes. Go with the 6-second version.
Right.
Now, if I could do that, I was like, damn it, description, right? Descript. If it's offering, I haven't used it, but if I can use it the way I'm thinking, bro, are you kidding me? This podcast, I could edit.
Yeah.
But I'm editing not in a timeline fashion. I'm editing like I'm editing a paper.
Right. No, yeah, the whole concept of a podcast or an interview or a paper is just like what you said. It's just to get your point across still. Like, we're having a conversation. I'm going to talk, when you're talking story, like, I talk story. So, like, it's like, okay, what's the point? Wait, what were we talking about?
Yeah.
But really, it's because there's something you're talking about, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. But, like, you start in that time in between till you get to the point. Like, you really don't need all that. It's just hitting, and people don't want to hear it most of the time. And in fact, it's kind of like, it's kind of like there's 2 ways. You either want to talk story and enjoy that, like, oh, we're gonna learn, but we're also gonna hang out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But let's say when you're just trying to consume as much information as possible about something, like let's say when you're trying to learn something. And you just want to get as much as possible and then move on, because you're not actually going to get everything you need in that one setting, right? So, like, when you're delivering that information, you really should just give them as much of the information as you can give them in the short amount of time as possible. You know,
what I think you're
how to get
highlighting,
A to B the fastest. Boop. You know,
what you're highlighting is the differences in audience on YouTube. For me, I hear that,
and that's what I was thinking
I'm
when I was saying that.
But not just YouTube, any outlet. What we consume a lot of, and what we are selfish about, is educational content. Right. Give me the answer. Give me some insight.
I want to know the answers now. I don't want to take 10 years.
I don't care what you're eating.
Apprentice.
I don't care what's happening in the other room. We don't need to go on a tangent. In fact, if you do, I'm clicking off.
Yeah.
Selfish as fuck. This is my time. This is my education.
What it is. That's what it's become.
There are quote unquote successful routes of entertainment where Absolutely. I don't know what I'm going to get. If we start dilly-dallying and we're going on tangents and fluffiness here and fluffiness there, that's what I'm here for. That's what I signed up for. This is entertainment. But
that's a podcast a lot of times.
You know what?
Chatting.
I think there's a natural part of somebody. It just happened literally just like an hour before when I'm talking to my brother. When I heard him talking about being black in Hawaii, and then he went, I could tell there's this moment too, and I'm just looking at him. I'm like, oh shit, he's on one. Like, I could tell there's a moment where someone's talking out loud, kind of like I am now, kind of like when rappers freestyle, true freestyles. You don't know what you're saying. You're just thinking of an image. You don't know exact words. You're not building. This is partly to do this is largely based on fluency and proficiency and command of a language. We got to say that first.
Okay.
But you get to a point where you're not thinking of the blocks of language and grammar. You're thinking of the idea.
You're painting the picture.
And so you're just going, and you're kind of like this real-time feedback loop of seeing or experiencing experiencing your own output, and that's influencing your input, and you get into this loop. And I felt like I witnessed my brother get into that loop where he's hearing himself explain an idea, a feeling that we had of being, growing up black in Hawaii. And then he got in that loop describing something that he never heard himself say before. Mm-hmm. I never heard him say that before.
And then he's feeling it.
And then that loop, you just see it play itself out. And it was beautiful. I was like, and he said it right after, like, I never even heard myself say that before. There's those moments in talking where I feel like it's a warm up. You kind of warm up and then you hit this fucking pace or you hit this point and there's a warm down. Really good, skilled people who practice this a lot, who are speaking a lot, who did 5,000 podcast episodes, who've been interviewing people for like journalists for the last 30 years, something. I feel like they can hit that more regularly and extended periods of time. Whereas normal people, we're going in and out. We're hitting these points. It's kind of like waves. And so editing can be just taking the peak of all these waves, all the warm-ups and warm-downs, kind of getting rid of those. And then what you get left is just the straight dope, which in an educational video,
that's what you want.
Give me those pieces.
Yeah.
And if this AI app can help me do that.
Yeah.
But see, how do I explain that to, let's say, like a remote editor? There's a lot of nuances that go into.
Like, you use this app. Or,
I mean,
they use this app. Forget you. You say, familiarize yourself with this app. This is what we're using now.
I'm sure there's probably a way to collaborate on this app, right, with multiple people. It's probably just part of their pricing plan. It's somewhere.
Fiverr had a job, now they out.
Shoot.